Morning class, we are going to continue learning about the moon, and I took some pages from the moon book, which I'm also going to assign on Epic if you want to read it. But we're only going to read the section about facts about the moon that we actually want to add to our astronaut poster with all of our facts about the moon. So today we're going to be looking for important details in the text, just like we did yesterday. So we're going to look just at the moon facts from this book. All right, so I'm going to read 2 pages, and then we're going to mark where we see the important facts, and then we're going to add them to maybe a keyword summary at the end as some things that we can make captions out of for our poster. A star burns gases that give off heat and light. The sun is a star. A planet reflects sunlight and revolves around the sun. Earth is a planet. Our moon is the brightest and biggest light in our night sky. It outshines all the stars and planets, which appear as small points of light. Some planets have many moons. Earth has only one. Our moon looks bright because it is so close to Earth compared to the faraway stars and planets. It is about 38,900 miles away. That's a big number. I have to practice saying those things. All right, so my first question is I want to look for something that I think is important. What did you learn that is important? I learned that the sun is a star, which we already knew. Earth, it reflects the sunlight and revolves around the sun. We've been learning about that in all of our texts. Earth has only one moon. And the moon looks so bright because it is so close to Earth. So I could type something, I could type a fact here. So let's see. I'm going to type a fact at the bottom. Earth has one moon that looks big and bright because it is close to Earth. So I put in the adjectives that I learned, and I combined 2 facts and made it into a longer compound sentence. So we've got our first fact that we could add to our poster. If you want to, you can pause and you could copy this fact down in your own words. Or you can look at some of the other facts we find on the pages. Let's continue on. All right, the moon is about 2,000 miles in diameter and 6,800 miles around. So diameter means like if you were to cut it in the middle and you were to go through the middle of it, okay? Earth is about 8,000 miles in diameter and 25,000 miles around. So I know that the Earth is bigger. It's 4 times as big as the moon. That means the moon is still pretty big. The moon makes no light of its own to shine. It is bright in the night sky because it reflects the sun's light. It is about 1/4 of the size of the Earth. It is made up of rock and dust. There is no air or sign of life. I'm thinking that I need to put a little star beside right here where I know that the moon reflects the sun's light, because the moon doesn't make any light of its own. There's also no air and no sign of life. And we learned one more thing. There's no noise if you think back to our book from yesterday. There's no noise on the moon. Why is that? That's right, because there's no air to carry the sound waves to make noise. Let's look at our next page. Astronomers study the planets and their moons and the stars. I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to put a little mark over here so I can remember. An orbit is the path of one object around another, just like we practiced in class. That's a cool definition. I probably want to write something about orbit in my poster because orbit is a pretty important word. Most astronomers and other scientists think our moon is formed about 4.5 billion years ago. Wow. Some believe something collided with the Earth and tossed a cloud of rock and debris while orbiting around the Earth. The rock and debris came together to form the moon. I've never heard that before. You could pick one of these 3 stars and you could write one of your facts just like we did on the other page. I'm not going to write one this time. I'd like you to pause the video and write down a fact you think would be interesting to add to your poster. All right. So we noticed that a satellite is an object orbiting around a larger one. What is Earth's only satellite? That's right, the moon is Earth's only satellite. The moon is Earth's only natural satellite. It takes about 1 month for the moon to travel around the Earth. Oh, we're going to learn something really cool, but I'm going to put a star right there because 1 month for the Earth to travel around the moon. The moon makes one complete rotation for each complete trip around the moon. Thus, the same side of the moon is always facing the Earth. Oh, look at that. Isn't that cool? You can follow around and see Earth's rotation. The moon's rotation around the Earth. I think I'm going to put a little star right here too. There's some really cool facts here. I want you to pick one thing that you've learned from this page, pause the video, and write down one of your facts. All right, we've got another picture of the moon and it orbiting around the Earth. The moon appears to change shape, but it doesn't. The different shapes we see are called the phases of the moon. We are seeing different amounts of light being reflected on the moon. How much light we see depends on the position of the Earth, moon, and sun. All right, let's look over here. We have some of the phases of the moon. The new moon. During a new moon, the moon is almost directly between the sun and the Earth. The moon looks dark. We see no light reflected. Oh my goodness. So the new moon means we can't actually see it. That's a pretty cool fact. So when it looks like there's no moon in the sky, that's called the new moon. And you could chart this on your moon calendar that you're going to get tomorrow. The crescent moon, the moon is waxing. When the surface is lit, we see it getting bigger. Crescent moon looks like a little banana, doesn't it? In a few days, a bit of the sunlight side of the moon shows and it forms a crescent. We could write about the crescent moon. The first quarter moon is when the moon is a quarter of the way around the Earth. It is the first quarter phase. We see it half lit. It is sometimes called a half moon. But the reason why we call it a quarter moon is because if you think about it, we only see the front side of the moon. We don't see the back side of the moon. So you're only seeing 1/4 of the front side of the moon. You're not seeing half of the moon. I know that can be confusing sometimes. So you could take a minute. We could pick a fact. We could talk about how the moon changes shape. Over here has a fact about that. We could write about why we have the phases of the moon. We could write about the new moon, the crescent moon, or the first quarter moon. You can take a moment and pause right here and pick something to write about. I like the fact we are seeing how much light is reflected on the moon, and that's what causes the phases of the moon. All right, let's look at some of the other types of the phases of the moon. We have the gibbous moon. When the moon is waxing between the first quarter moon and the full moon, it is called a gibbous moon. That is when the moon looks to be almost 3/4 of the way lit. We have the full moon. Oh, there's a lot of silly stories about the full moon. It's about 2 weeks since the new moon, and now the entire face of the moon is lit, and we see the entire moon shining. Sometimes during the full moon, you can even see it during the day. I like full moon. There's so many things that's so pretty about the full moon. The gibbous moon comes again after the full moon, and this moon is waning. When the lit surface, we see it getting smaller. So waning means it's getting smaller. Waxing means it's getting larger. So I actually think I'm going to write that. So we're going to type that. Waxing the moon. Oh, hit the wrong letter. Is getting or looks like it is getting having some problem with the pen here. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to write it with a pen. It looks like the moon is getting larger on the lit side. Waning, I like to remind all my students, it means smaller. Sorry, I'm going to have to write with my fingers, so I'm going to have to write less. Because sometimes people forget what that means. All right, so we've got our waxing gibbous moon, which means it's getting larger until it becomes the full moon. We've got our gibbous moon, which is waning, which means the lit side of the moon is getting smaller. We have our last quarter moon. It's when the moon is 3/4 of the way around the earth. It is in the last quarter of the phase. Again, we see it half lit, or sometimes people call it a half moon, but it's really a quarter moon because you can only see a quarter of it. And then we have the crescent moon again because it's getting, waning. So we would call this the waning crescent moon. It's a small sliver of the moon shining in the sky. And then we have the new moon, which is completely dark. I would probably write about the new moon because the new moon and the full moon are often confused. So that might be a good fact to write about too. So you can pick any fact off this page to help you write a fact for your poster. If you want to pause the video now. All right, let's look at this one. So here are some tools that astronomers, or you can use at home. Binoculars and telescopes, which we'll read a book about those later on this month, are tools that you can use to see the moon and different planets. An observatory is somewhere you'd have to go to look at planets, but you can see so much better with the observatory's telescope because they're so much bigger. Some night sky gazers and astronomers can get a close-up view of the moon by looking through binoculars. Others look through telescopes. Some huge telescopes are used at observatories. I might have to find a link and add that so you can see what an observatory telescope looks like. A close-up view of the moon's surface shows dark patches Astronomers call these plains or seas. Other areas are covered with craters, mountains, valleys. Moons and craters were formed between 3.5 and 4.5 billion years ago when meteors pounded on its surface. So we could write about craters. We could write about some of the tools that astronomers use, such as the observatory, the telescope, or binoculars. Oh, and we could write about how old some of these meteors are. This would be a good fact. So you pick out your fact that you can write here, and you can add any of these facts to your poster. You can pause the video, that way you know how to spell these words. And I'm going to add a video, a brain pop video, where you can pull some more facts off about the different phases of the moon. So I'm really excited to see some of your facts. Don't forget to write what your weight would be on the moon using the special website I linked. And I believe that's all we have for today. So if you need to go back and replay this video, you can go back and replay to look for stuff. But I'm also going to put this book on Epic for all of my friends, and I'll put a link so you can log in and see it. And you can look through this book as you work on your poster. Have a great time working on your poster, and I can't wait to see all your beautiful astronaut drawings with all your wonderful facts. I love you guys. I hope to see you soon.